Hi, my name is Mary and welcome to my channel, See Mary Make. This is my first time doing this, so this has been a long process for me. Next time I promise to have an intro to my video. I'm making a dollhouse for my daughter in this video. We tried to buy her one, we couldn't find one that she liked or that was big enough for her. And so what I'm using is a 6 cube shelf, the 13-inch cubes, not the 11-inch ones. And at this part, I'm just cutting out a piece of foam board that I bought for the backing of the cube shelf so that the house has walls to the back of each room. Now, the way I did this, of course, you can measure it out and, measure your shelf and then do the measurements on your foam board and cut it out. But the way I did it is I put my shelf together and I just laid my shelf right on top of the foam board, and then I just traced around it with a pen. And then I'm using here a box cutter and a ruler just to go along the lines I drew and cut through. I have my large rotary mat under it, but this piece, as you can see, was much larger than my mat, so that's why I keep sliding it to make sure I don't cut into my carpeting at all, because that wouldn't be a favorable outcome to this. So I'm just going along with my ruler and doing like 18 inches at a time, because I think that's how long my ruler is, that one particularly. It doesn't have to be a ruler. You can use any straight edge you have. You can use the side of a binder or a book. If you don't have a hard ruler, if you only have like a tape measure, or if you trust yourself and have a steady hand, you can just freehand it. So now that I've done the whole thing once, I'm going back over and redoing it to make sure I go all the way through it. And I'm sorry about the little feet running back and forth and legs. You will see them throughout the video probably, unless I could edit them out. They're very curious and they are very hands-on and they want to help, but they can't with most of it. But so yeah, I'm just going to go back over the whole thing, still sliding it back and forth to make sure I stay on top of my mat so I don't cut anything underneath. And so once I do that, now I'm going to pull it apart, and now I'm on to adding the wallpaper my daughter picked out, which is just scrapbooking paper. Some of it's scrapbooking paper and some is contact paper from the Dollar Tree. So in order to get my little rooms, the sizing I needed for those, I laid my shelf back on top of the cutout piece of foam board and then traced along the inside of each cube so that I could, so I knew where to put my papers at without having to do a bunch of measuring. This is just a lot quicker. And I feel like you're more likely to come out with a better outcome, especially your first time around, if you do it this way rather than trying to measure out each cube and put it on, the foam board yourself. So the issue I had here was the store didn't have any scrapbooking paper larger than 12 by 12 inches, and as I already said, my cubes were 13 by 13. So I had to buy a few sheets of each paper and, cut it and puzzle it together in an aspect to fit it for each wall. The one I'm working on right now is like a mermaid scale type of paper. And for that one, I didn't really need to match anything up because it's so busy and it's so small. Like looking at it from like here, or even looking at it like when it's set up in their room, you can't really see that the scales don't match up in color or pattern. I of course made sure they were all facing the same way, and I took one whole piece, and then I took the other two pieces and cut one side off of each one, and then overlapped them under the whole piece. And then I put just a very small piece of Scotch tape on them, very small, because I didn't want it to be noticeable. And during this part of the video, I'm going to talk about the other papers. If you get a scrapbooking paper like the one next to it, which I don't have a recording of me doing, it's little unicorn faces. It's directional. It's a very clear pattern. I had to be very precise in lining it up and make sure that the little ears and horns and eyes all matched up correctly so that it didn't look crazy once it was done. So just be careful about that if you buy something that's directional. If you don't, or you get something that's very busy like this one I'm working on, at least for us, it really didn't make a difference that I didn't line up the scales on this piece of paper, this wall. And now that I've got that measured out and taped together, I'm going to take my lovely Mod Podge and a sponge, which did not fit in the container, a sponge brush. So I'm now pouring it on instead. And I'm just going to cover the whole square with that. And also, you don't have to use Mod Podge. You could use double-sided tape. You could use Elmer's glue. Pretty much any school glue. You just want to make sure you get a good, first of all, you want to make sure you cover it all, everywhere where you want to put the paper, with a nice layer of it so it sticks good. I would not recommend like a glue stick or hot glue for this, because the glue sticks, they dry too fast. You can't get it down. I've used them for other projects and it just doesn't work out. So here I'm just using my hand to smooth on the paper. And now that I've done that, I'm going to try unsuccessfully, I think, to peel off the Scotch tape. And I think if and the reason I did this is because on the other sheets, it worked just fine. On the unicorn one beside it, and then the pink one that's right above it, it worked fine. It didn't give me problems. But on this one, it stuck to it and started to tear. So I just, like I said, I try. I think I got one piece off. And I'm sorry I say so much. And I think on the next piece I realized it's just not working, so I just cut the piece of tape. But anyway, you just want to make sure you get up under those edges where the paper is overlapping and put a layer of glue or whatever adhesive you're using. Another adhesive that would probably be good for this would be a spray adhesive, if you have that. I know the Dollar Tree carries it sometimes, and I've used it before for other projects, and it works pretty well. Yeah, so I'm just cutting the little piece of tape so I can get the Mod Podge up under there. And make sure it all sticks together good. Because like a preschooler is going to be playing this, you have to make sure that it's pretty sturdy. My daughter is not she doesn't have the lightest touch when it comes to stuff. She's pretty heavy-handed. But so now I'm just going up under the corners to make sure that I got those glued down good. And now I'm going to go up under the parts where the papers overlap. And if you want to, you can do a layer of Mod Podge on top of the paper also, which will make it a little more durable once it's dry. But I did that with the pink one, and for whatever reason it left like bad streaks on it. So I only did it over the edges a little bit on this one to see how it would look, and it didn't do it with this paper. So I guess it just depends on what color the paper is. The pink, I mean, you can see it in the video here, those darker lines the ones that are running horizontally and kind of, you can't really see the vertical line. There's a vertical line too. That's Mod Podge. But it didn't do that on this paper or the unicorn paper. So I don't know if it was just the pink where it's, well, I can't say where it was light because the white paper it didn't do that on. But you probably could rectify it if you were to cover the entire thing like I did with this, but it looked so streaky when I tried with the pink, I just stopped. But as you can see, I'm covering all of the scales with it. And yeah, that's all you really need to do for that. And then for this last square, I'm going to show how I put on a piece of contact paper for the wallpaper, which is actually really easy with the Dollar Tree contact paper. I've used other brands too, like more expensive brands, and they work fantastic and they stick much better. But the nice thing about the dollar store one, or the Dollar Tree one, is if you mess up, you can peel it right off without a problem and it doesn't damage what you're putting. Even on this foam board, it doesn't pull any of the paper off of it or anything, because I don't know, it's still really sticky. It sticks good. It's just easy to peel off, which is nice. And so that's what I did. I just laid the piece on it and kind of used my nail to press where I needed to, because there's lines on the back. So then I just followed the line like I'm showing here all the way down the piece, and I did that for both sides, or both sides, 2 of the 4 sides, to get it the right size. And yeah, it gave me problems. It will roll up on you. I would suggest putting something heavy on one side of it so it doesn't do that. I don't know why I didn't hear. I know I did it when I cut other pieces of it for this project. So now I'm just double checking to see if it fits, and it's still a little big. So I'm running my nail across the side again, and I'm gonna cut that little bitty piece off that's left overhanging. And you can get a lot of the supplies for this at places like the Dollar Tree, Walmart, Dollar General. You don't have to spend a lot of money. I think total this project it definitely cost less than $100. I would probably say right around $60 total. I did have some of the stuff at home already though, like the glues and things like that. So to stick the contact paper on, the easiest way I found is to peel it. See, I got it stuck there and it just pulls right off, no problem. And again, it was crooked. I like to peel one edge all the way across, fold it under, and then pull from the bottom as I press it against whatever I'm sticking it to. And that just seems the best way to do it. You can also, like, if you're having problems with bubbling or like creases in it, if you get a crease where it's like stuck to itself, you're gonna have to peel it up and re-stick it. You're gonna have to peel it up, pull the crease apart, pull it off of itself, re-stick it and flatten it good. So now I'm measuring out my contact paper for my flooring. This paper is the one I'm using for the bathrooms, or bathroom and kitchen. And then I used a different paper for the rest of the rooms, a wood grain looking contact paper for the bedrooms and the living room. So yeah, I'm just measuring out 13 inches by 13 inches, I believe, for my flooring. And Yeah, I'm doing a little dots and then drawing a line from one end to the other on both sides to make a square, and then I'm gonna cut it out and stick it to the floor of each room. And total different side note, the reason I bought the 13 by 13 inch cubes is that so that her dolls could stand up in them all the way. So if you're not making it for a large, like a 11.5 inch doll to 12-inch doll, if you're making it for smaller dolls like a L or like a LOL or something like that, then you could use the smaller cubes, which will save you even more money. I think the shelf itself was, I think it was like $50 maybe. Yeah, I think it was like $47 or $49 for the shelf. Okay, so now that I'm done cutting that out, I'm going to peel it and stick it on to the shelf. So I'm doing it the same way as I did with the wall on the foam board. I'm peeling one side and folding it back, and then I am sticking it to the front side where I'm at, which was a little more difficult than I expected it to be. The side walls really posed a problem because you can't just like put your hands to the side and stick it right where you want it. So I kind of had to adjust it a little bit a few times to make it a straight line with the front of the shelf. And I also realized once I did that I needed to turn the shelf around because I need to be able to pull the paper back towards me while I smooth with my right hand. So, yeah, so I'm just pulling the backing off of it as I smooth it down, or smoothing it down as I pull the backing off of it. You can use, I had some like little air pockets and air bubbles under it when I got done, just really small ones, but I noticed it and it bothered me, even though you can't really see it on camera. So I have a little tool that came with a Cricut kit I have, that I'm using to smooth it out. And I have some overhang there on the side, but as I smoothed it, it kind of just pushed it into the crease where that shelf meets that wall, or the bottom meets the wall of the shelf. And yeah, I just pushed it right in there so I didn't have to trim it. If you do need to trim it, you can gently, very gently, because you don't want to slice up your shelf and ruin it, use your box cutter or a crafting knife to just run it along that edge and cut the paper. So yeah, that's really all there is to adding the flooring on. And now I am putting the backing on, and I'm just using some small little like finishing nails that actually came with other cube shelves I've owned, because I never put the back, like some of them come with little squares where you can only put some backs on some cubes, and I always keep the little kits even though I never use them for the shelf. Well, I actually used them for the shelf this time. So as you can see, I have my squares drawn on the back of my foam board. So like, first of all, when you put it on, lay your shelf flat down on the floor, put your foam board on top of it, and make sure you've got, the right rooms lined up. Then flip it over. So put your foam board with your wallpaper face down and lay your shelf on top of it and trace the inside of each cube again. And that, I'm sorry I didn't record that, I wish I had. But that will show you where you need to put your nails, because it's going to show you where the shelving is. And that's, my son is helping hand me nails there. He really wanted to help hammer them on, but I was afraid he was going to mess it up. So maybe next time I do something, I'll let him do that part. But he's handing me nails. And yeah, I just nailed it in, a few on each shelf. There wasn't really any rhyme or reason to it. I think I started on one side and kind of worked my way to the middle and then the other side a little bit. Just as long, like, my dad always told me you should work your like middle out so you don't get like a pocket in the middle, but I didn't really take that into consideration when I did this. But I didn't have any problems. It lined up just fine. There was no weird spots in it where it didn't want to go down or anything like that. And this was quite easy. And I'm sure there's other ways. You could obviously glue this on, but I decided not to. So here's a look at it all put together. The next morning, and I think it came out pretty good. It wasn't an expensive project, not for, like, if you look at the price of a Barbie house versus what I actually spent on this, anywhere from $60 to $70, I think is what I spent on it total. And it's honestly cheaper, especially if you have a lot of the doll accessories already. And even if you have to go buy the scrapbooking paper and the like contact papers, you can get the contact papers at the dollar store. And scrapbooking paper, even at like Hobby Lobby, is pretty cheap. It's only like, I think like 50 cents a sheet. It wasn't expensive at all. And so here is what the house looks like all set up. And it's actually been a while since I've recorded this or filmed it. You know, life in 2020, it got a little bit crazy with homeschooling and stuff, but this is the finished product with it all set up. The kids, of course, helped set it up, especially my youngest daughter, Eve, which is really who it was for. And it's just a little shot of each little room. And it's been months. It's holding up just fine. And she is really loving it. She plays with it all the time. It was worth every penny. And I feel like I saved so much money doing it myself.